I've always just considered myself the luckiest guy in the history of humankind to have grown up in southern Humboldt in that era. And I got busted selling weed up in Oregon in 1981 and went to, I was sentenced to 7 years. And there had been a riot in the prison. A few people got killed, and the American Civil Liberties Union filed a lawsuit against Oregon Department of Corrections, and they won. And they had to reduce the population by 500 effective immediately. So I've been in there for 18 months. I'd just been before the parole board. They said I could come back in 44 months for a parole, and then a couple months later they came in and said, roll them up. Kenny, you're going home. I was the warden's gardener by then, and they were looking for nonviolent crimes that are least likely to reoffend, and I rose right to the top. Came back to Humboldt County. I was so glad to be home. And I went to Humboldt State. Got a degree. And my brother was pastor in the church there next to the post office in Garberville, the Assembly of God Church. And when I graduated from college, my wife and I moved back down here and became his associate pastors. We played music and led the youth. And while I was in college, my daughter got leukemia, and she went through 5 years of just hellacious treatment. It was the worst thing that a dad could go through. But you know, she said, we were down there in San Francisco that first night, and the doctor was trying to get us to decide whether to take part in this study or not. And Jennifer said, you know, when he told me I had leukemia, I didn't even know what it was. She said, I knew it was serious, and I knew that people died from it, but God spoke to me and told me that I was not going to die. And she said, for all those kids that took part in these studies, even though they knew they weren't going to make it, she said, the least that I can do for the kids that come after me is take part in the study. And she went through 5 years of no hair or wearing a baseball cap. You know. But she never worried about it. She never worried. She just took the treatments, and you know, she didn't go to school. She probably went to school 40% of the time because her immune system was compromised. But and we were in Arcata then. There was a group of these girls that I called the Arcata Girls Gang, and they used to pick her homework up for her at school and bring it home. She'd do it and they'd take it back, and they were just wonderful. All of them were just, and they reminded me of when I was a kid, you know. That sense of community, it's just always been a part of this place. You know, for years, everybody knew everybody. You know, everybody either worked in a sawmill or worked in the woods, and you know, there were a couple of churches, a couple of bars, and everybody knew everybody. These last 10, 15 years, that's changed a little bit. A lot of people have moved in from out of the area, but in general, if you're from Garberville or anywhere in southern Humboldt, you know everybody. I know just about everybody. And the timber kind of petered out around here around 1980, and the fishing too. I remember the mosquito fleet in Shelter Cove. There used to be 100, 200 boats down there in Shelter Cove that went out salmon fishing every day, and that whole fleet is gone. There's nobody down there now. And there's a few people working in the woods, but it's not the driving force. The weed, marijuana, is the driving force. And you know, it was just always accepted around here. Weed was just always accepted that's how you make your money. You move up here, you get a little piece of land, you grow enough weed to pay your bills. And as it became more popular, I think that the government saw that it was going to become legal, and they just sort of started leaving it alone, and people started growing more and more and more, and it became possible to make $1 million in a year or a couple of years. I mean, it was just, you know, people joke about the fact that every 19-year-old kid's got a $50,000 truck. You know, life is good. Life has been real good. But now there's a cultural change going on again that weed has become legal, and if you're going to continue to grow weed, you got to get that permit and go through that process, and it has caused the price to come down about 75%. So you can only make $300,000 a year now. But you know, this place has changed an awful lot in the 65 years that I've lived here, and in other ways it hasn't changed a bit. You know, I've known you guys for 40 years, and I still have friends that I've had since I was 5 years old. I worked down at Singing Trees, the recovery center, for a while, and Patty and Chuck Watson that started that place, they went to Whitethorn Elementary School with me. Vern Bonham, he went to Whitethorn Elementary with me. Mike Byerly, you know, Lover Burns, I met him when I was 12 here in town. And there have been some tragedies, you know, people killed in car wrecks, people died from drug overdoses. You know, a lot lately, now that I'm 65, a lot of people my age are dying from heart disease and cancer. And my girlfriend's husband, she was married to him for 20 years. And he was a local guy. He was my hero, man. Larry Knapp, he played guitar for Jericho. A bunch of high school kids, Bruce Tucker, Doug Cox, and he died from throat cancer 7 or 8 years ago. You know, Erlinda grew up around here. I've known her since she was 14, and man, it is just the hugest blessing that we got together. You know, it's just been wonderful to have somebody in my life, and for her to have somebody in her life. And we were talking to a girl up at the credit union, and she said, "Oh, that is just so precious." that you guys could fall in love at your age. Well, it's precious. And she still has her place out in Whitethorn. We go out there 3 or 4 times a month, spend some time, and I live here, we both live here in Redway. You know, in spite of any tragedy or hard times, this place has just been a slice of heaven for me. There is no place on the planet that's more beautiful than southern Humboldt. You know, Richardson's Grove, Whitmore Grove, the Avenue of the Giants, the Eel River, the Mattole River. They're just beautiful. You know, you can feel God here. Anytime that you're willing to look, you can see God's hand at work here, and it's just such a wonderful place. I do have to say too about my daughter. She made it. 5 years of treatment, but she recovered, and she married a guy from high school, and he manages the grocery store uptown. She teaches school in Leggett, and they've got a couple of kids and just a wonderful family. My son is a contractor, lives down in Piercy, and he right now is remodeling his mom's house in Miranda. She taught school in Sacramento for 20 years. She left here in, I don't know, 94, 96 to go down and get her master's degree and be a special education teacher in Sacramento. And then she retired and came back. Bought a house in Miranda, and Casey's remodeling it for her. And you know, that's the thing, is that I heard somebody say one time that some people come for a season, and some people come for a reason, and some people come to stay for the rest of their life. And that's what I've seen. Some people come here and this is home and they know it, and they just stay here. And most people, or not most, but a lot of people come here for a season, and they live through that season, and you know, there's no Baskin Robbins, there's no place open all night. They just move back to wherever they came from. Some other people come for a reason. They have a goal. They have some reason that they're here, and once that reason's gone, they're gone. But I'm one of those people that I'm here to stay. I was born here, and I will be here when I die.